Hi everyone, my name is Ankita Tomar and welcome to Legal Edge. So today I'll be taking up a topic, a very brief topic जहाँ पर हम briefly discuss करेंगे emergency के बारे में, about the concept of emergency and also about the types of emergency. ठीक है, साथ ही में ये भी डिस्कस कर लेंगे कि कितनी बार कौन सी emergency जो है आज तक impose हुई है. चलिए, so let us start with the first form, that is the national emergency. बट उसके पहले एक ब्रीफ डिस्कशन कर लेते हैं इमरजेंसी के बारे में कि इमरजेंसी है क्या और हमारे संविधान के अंदर, हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अंदर कहाँ पर दी हुई है. सो पार्ट 18 of the Indian Constitution talks about the emergency provisions. Now these emergency provisions have been highly criticized even during the making and even today. So since the making of the constitution to the present day, when these provisions are so disgusted upon or so you can say they are so much disliked, then why do we have these provisions in our constitution? The reason behind these provisions is to keep the integrity of the nation intact. Now let us see what exactly is done in this particular situation. So see, emergency is imposed whenever there's a situation of crisis in front of the president. Whenever the president sees a situation जहां पर उन्हें लगता है कि यार कंट्री के लिए क्राइसिस वाला सिचुएशन क्रिएट हो गया है, what he'll do is he'll proclaim emergency, and the federal structure that the democratic political structure of India provides it will be changed into a unitary system. यानी कि जितनी पावर स्टेट के पास में थी वो सब आकर के इंटीग्रेट हो जाएंगी कहां पर, या कंसोलिडेट हो जाएंगी कहां पर, आपके सेंटर के पास में. ठीक है, तो फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर को यूनिटरी स्ट्रक्चर में चेंज कर देता है. ये अपने आप में एक बहुत यूनिक फीचर है, बट बहुत क्रिटिसाइज्ड फीचर भी है, क्योंकि कई बार हमने देखा है कि सेंटर इससे अपने फायदे के लिए जो है ऑप्ट कर लेता है. Okay, so whenever the emergency is proclaimed, it will always be proclaimed after taking the advice of the cabinet ministers. The president can overrule many provisions during this emergency which are related to the fundamental rights. यानी कि सबसे ज्यादा इसे heinous इसलिए माना जाता है क्योंकि the emergency tends to take away the fundamental rights except for article 20 and 21. Now let us see, let us talk about the rationality behind these provisions. As I said कि जब इतना heinous है, इतना disgusted है, इतना disputed concern है, तो फिर क्यों इसको हमारे constitution के अंदर रखा गया है? So the reason or the rationality behind this was to incorporate, to safeguard the sovereignty, unity, integrity and security of the country, and to safeguard its democratic political system or the structure which the constitution gives to it. ठीक है, so basically क्या करना चाहते हैं हम, हमारे देश की, हमारे कंट्री की सोवरेनिटी को और यूनिटी और इंटीग्रिटी को इंटैक्ट रखना चाहते हैं, उसका जो डेमोक्रेटिक स्ट्रक्चर है उसको इंटैक्ट रखना चाहते हैं. इसीलिए whenever we see a situation of crisis जहां पर इन चीजों को हार्म हो सकता है, प्रेसिडेंट emergency proclaim कर देते हैं. The constitution stipulates three types of emergencies. The first is the national emergency contained under Article 352 of the Indian Constitution. The second is the state emergency under Article 356, and the third one is the financial emergency under Article 360. Now let us discuss each one of them individually. So first we'll talk about the national emergency. National emergency can be declared on the basis of war, external aggression and armed rebellion. So whenever the national emergency is proclaimed in due to the first two grounds, it is called external emergency. And whenever the national emergency under Article 352 is proclaimed on the ground of armed rebellion, it is called internal emergency. This particular type of emergency mentioned in Article 352, which we usually call as national emergency, is referred to as proclamation of emergency. So जहां भी आपको, अगर आपके जो पैराग्राफ्स आते हैं, जो कॉम्प्रहेंशन आते हैं, उसमें अगर आपको कहीं पर भी प्रोक्लेमेशन ऑफ इमरजेंसी दिखता है तो समझ जाइएगा कि वो आर्टिकल 352 वाली इमरजेंसी की बात कर रहा है. दिस इमरजेंसी वंस प्रोक्लेम्ड बाय द प्रेसिडेंट मस्ट बी अप्रूव्ड बाय बोथ द हाउसेस ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट विद इन 1 month. ठीक है, एंड इट कैन बी रिवोक्ड ईदर बाय द प्रेसिडेंट और इट कैन बी डिसकंटिन्यूड बाय द लोकसभा. Then next are the instances when national emergency was imposed or was proclaimed in India. The first instance was on the ground of, or on the account of, Chinese aggression in 1962, and it continued till 1968. The second instance was of 1971 due to the Pakistani attack, and it was in continuation when the third emergency was proclaimed. The third emergency was proclaimed in 1975. So when in 1975 the third emergency was proclaimed, the second emergency was already going on. Okay, वो सीज नहीं हुई थी सेकंड 1971 वाली जो पाकिस्तान अग्रेशन की वजह से जो इमरजेंसी लगाई गई थी वो अभी तक सीज हुई भी नहीं थी, और हमने थर्ड इमरजेंसी लगा दी यहाँ पर 1975 के अंदर. दिस थर्ड इमरजेंसी was basically less of a result of external aggression. It was more about the political aggression in the country. So Indira Gandhi was the then prime minister, and Congress was in the center. But state key governments, and there were all more parties of the opposition which were in the terms of friction with the Congress government. So उनके बीच के फ्रिक्शन को एक तरीके से कहीं ना कहीं साइडलाइन करने के लिए, या आप कह सकते हो कि अपने पॉलिटिकल एजेंडा को अपराइट करने के लिए, अपहोल्ड करने के लिए, इंदिरा गांधी ने इस इमरजेंसी को 1975 में जो है प्रोक्लेम किया था. एंड द सेकेंड एंड द थर्ड इमरजेंसी बोथ वर रिवोक्ड इन 1977 एट द सेम टाइम. ठीक है, क्योंकि ये सेकेंड इमरजेंसी तो अलग से इंडिविजुअली इसको रिवोक किया ही नहीं गया था, और 75 में दोबारा लगा दी गई थी, तीसरी बार लगा दी गई थी. तो ये दोनों इमरजेंसीज को एट द सेम टाइम 1977 के अंदर वापस जो है रिवोक कर लिया गया था. The third emergency is more of was more you can say tending to solve a political issue than of a national issue. ठीक है, national issue को cater नहीं कर रही थी आपकी third emergency. That was trying to cater or solve the political issue that was amongst the parties of that duration, that era. Now there is स्टेट इमरजेंसी, द सेकेंड टाइप ऑफ इमरजेंसी, जिसको हम प्रेसिडेंट्स रूल भी कहते हैं बहुत पॉपुलरली. इस इमरजेंसी के इंस्टेंसेस हम यहाँ डिस्कस नहीं करने वाले हैं, क्योंकि स्टेट इमरजेंसी के इंस्टेंसेस आर न्यूमरस. इट इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट यूज्ड इमरजेंसीज, मोस्ट आर्बिट्ररली यूज्ड एंड मोस्ट फ्रीक्वेंटली यूज्ड इमरजेंसी. अगर हम अपने संविधान की बात करें तो द सेंटर टेक्स ओवर द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ अ स्टेट अंडर आर्टिकल 356 in case of failure of constitutional machinery in the state. Now what does the constitutional machinery mean, वो हम देखते हैं एक बार आगे आकर के. Now if the president is satisfied, the president could be informed by the governor of that particular state, or on his own account, if he is of the reason, or if he is of the belief that the state is not able to carry its government in consonance with the constitution or in accordance with the constitution, he may proclaim president's rule in that particular state. And the second ground is that whenever the state fails to comply with or to give effect to the directions of the center, whenever the center gives a direction to the state as per the Indian constitution, and the state fails to abide by those guidelines or those directions, in that situation also the president can proclaim a state emergency in that particular state. Okay, so there are two grounds. One is that the president is of the belief or of the reason that the state is not able to run its government, or the state government is not able to run the administration of the state as per the Indian constitution. And the second is when the state does not discharge the guidelines or the directions of the center given to it under the constitution. Then it must be approved by both the houses of the parliament within the duration of 2 months from its proclamation. Then what basically happens in the state emergency? Let us go to a previous slide and this one just discuss what basically happens in the case of a state emergency. So whenever a state emergency is proclaimed, the center gets all the rights regarding the administration and the legislation of that particular state. Okay, so that is why it is often called a bad dimension of the Indian constitution, because when you can say it is also called the murder of the democracy, because a state government has been elected by the public or the people of that particular state, है ना, of that constituency. So when the people's representation is whenever the state emergency is imposed, the people's representation is being curbed. Okay, what you are doing is you are choosing somebody else or somebody else's direction over the direction of people's representatives. आप स्टेट की गवर्नमेंट को साइड कर दे रहे हो जिसे जनता ने बनाया था, जनता ने अपहोल्ड किया था, और आप किसी और के डायरेक्शंस को फॉलो करने की बात कर रहे हो. दैट इज व्हाई इट इज ऑफन कॉल्ड एज द मर्डर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी. नाउ लेट अस टॉक अबाउट द last type of democracy, which is last type of emergency, which is given under Article 360, and that is the financial emergency. Financial emergency has never been imposed in India, and it basically means whenever there's a threat or there's a situation of insecurity regarding the financial stability of the country or the credit of the country, ठीक है, भारत की फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी या क्रेडिट को लेकर के जब भी कोई आपको थ्रेटन फील करेगी गवर्नमेंट, एट दैट टाइम द प्रेसिडेंट कैन इम्पोज financial emergency in the country. So far, it has never been imposed in our country, and it has to be approved by the both the houses of the parliament within 2 months of its proclamation. So this is all that you need to know about the emergencies. If you have any doubt with regard to this topic, or if you have more topics which you guys can suggest us for making more videos about them, do let us know in the comment section below. Bye guys, have a great day.